Hi folks, Matthew here with Disaster Area Designs. We are releasing today the new firmware version for the DMC-3XL and DMC-4 Gen 3. This is version 1.60. It adds quite a few new features, and I'm going to show everybody what they are and how they work and how you get to them. So once you've updated, the firmware's on our website, the firmware updating tools are on our website. We've got a video that shows how to update. It's fairly straightforward. You just need a USB cable. And once you've updated, you'll see your unit boot up, and it should say disaster area DMC Gen 3, and then it should say 1.60. So if it doesn't show 1.60, then that means that you're not updated and you need to re-update. But if it does say 1.60, then you're good to go. So all the new stuff is in the setup menu. So to get to the setup menu, you hold down the left and right buttons while the display is scrolling. Don't hold them when it's first booting up, hold them afterwards. When you see the display scroll setup, you can let them go. If you have a DMC4, the procedure is the same. It's the lower right and lower left buttons. So for those following along at home with DMC4s, anytime I say the center button, I mean the upper right button. It moves over here, like that. So once you're in the setup menu, there's a bunch of new stuff. So let's go over what the new stuff is. So we have all of the normal stuff, scrolling, looping, expression, jack, 4-button, 4-channel clock. But now we have this thing that says Util. What is Util? If you're familiar with our DMC micro, like this guy over here, where did I put it? With the DMC micro, then you may be familiar with our Util Mode. And Util Mode is a way for you to define what the buttons do. So it gives you one mode where you pick what these buttons do, not us. And so if you want to do that, you set this to on. And now we've got all these other things. We have ULT, ULN, ULL, ULH, ULC. So these are the same for all the utility modes. So let me explain this. U means utility mode, L is the button, and then T is the type. So if we examine this, you can see we have toggle, return, bank up, bank down, note, tap, and momentary, and one. So let me run through these really quickly. One means we send a single MIDI message when you press this button. So if you set the left button to a one shot like this, every time you press the left button in util mode, it's going to send one MIDI command. If you do toggle, it's going to send two MIDI commands. It'll send one when you press it, and it'll send a different one when you press it the second time. So this is like an on or off. Return is the same as toggle, but instead of waiting for you to press the button twice, you hit the button, it sends a message, and then immediately it sends the other message. Bank Plus and Bank Minus are for Strymon devices only. They do not work with anything else. So please don't email me and say, banking's not working on my Eventide. You know what? You're right, it doesn't work. If you want to use these bank things, you need a Strymon pedal. They're only supported for Strymon pedals, and the only reason they're in here is because every day we get asked, why did you take the bank mode stuff out? The reason is for preset mode. We took it out so that preset mode would work. Again, there's some real caveats and limitations with banking up and down, but for those folks who want this to work like, say, the Mike Pope firmware, then this is the way to go. Note sends a MIDI note. This is useful for controlling certain devices, Ableton Live, sending different MIDI messages to different things. I don't need it for anything, but I have a bunch of people who do, so it's in here. Tap. This is the same as using the tap in the clock mode. It follows the same rules. So it sends MIDI messages to your connected devices, ABCD. And then momentary. Momentary is a special case. Momentary sends one message when you hold the foot switch down, and it sends the other when you release it. This is for things like the performance switch or the momentary freeze for Strymon stuff. When you enable momentary, it turns off the hold function for that button. And we'll get to that in a second. So if you enable momentary on the left button will not work with the hold function. It's all both hold and press are controlled by momentary. Okay, so the next thing is the number, ULN, number. This number ranges from 0 to 128, and this is the controller number or the note number that this button will send when you push it. So if you're trying to set this up to work with your device, you'll see in the manual for your device CC11. So what you would do is you'd say CC11. So you say number 11. And then you would check your values. So there's a low value and a high value. And again, these range from 0 to 127. Most of the time, when you send a message, you'll be sending a high value or you'll be alternating between a low and high value. So if you're using the button for a one shot, it's going to send the high value always. So when you hit it, it's going to send whatever you set the high value to. 6, 40, 127, doesn't matter. If you use toggle, it's going to alternate between low and high. If you use return, it's going to start at high and then come back to low. If you use note, it's going to send a note of velocity high. So whatever the velocity that you want that note to be, you set it in high. Then for momentary, it sends high when you hold and low when you release. Got all that? Good. Okay, so the next thing is channel, ULC. And so you'll notice it says AB00. What that means is when I hit this button, it's going to send this message on channels 1 and 2. If you want this to be 1, 2, and 3, or 1, 2, 3, and 4, you can set it up any way you want. All the channel selection dialogues in the 3XL have been changed. Instead of being ABC, now they're ABCD, and we'll get to that in a minute too. So you can configure the left button press, that says UL. You can configure UA, which is alternate. That's the left button hold. You can configure the right button press, and you guessed it, the right button hold. So you've got 4 commands that you can send here, or 2 if you're using the momentaries. So any combination of those is fine. And then finally, we've got a cool thing in here, and we're going to talk about this when we talk about the multi-jack, but there is an assignment in here for utility jack. And what that lets you do is set up the multi-jack to send any MIDI CC you want. Okay, so let's get to the other changes that we've got in here. Okay, so the next change is device D. Now previously, device D and the looper are shared, and you can see here on the front, D/looper. And that's because we didn't have enough LEDs to indicate this in the way that I wanted. What I've done is I've split them out so that now if you want to have device D, you can, and you can also have the looper. So if you want to have 4 devices and the looper and the clock mode and the util mode, you can do whatever you want. It's all in there. It's all available to you. You don't have to settle for arbitrary limitations, except for the other ones that we give you. So if you want to use device D and looper, you totally can. It starts to get a little annoying to step through all the different modes once you've got 9 or 10 of them in there. So be careful about what you put in there. Just don't make it too hard on yourself. Okay, so device D and looper are separated. And then the next big thing is the jack. So we've got the same configurations for the multi-jack as we had before, but we've added a few new ones. So expression, so you connect an expression pedal to the jack. Tap, you connect a momentary tap tempo foot switch to the jack. And normally open. So what we've done here is we've taken out the T pole menu, the tap polarity menu, because it really didn't, as an extra menu item, it didn't matter much. So we've replaced it with normally open, which makes this function like an output to tap tempo to another device. And normally open is used for most devices. MIDI, so you can send MIDI from the jack. You have Chase Bliss, Maris, Empress, Alexander pedals. Toggle, this lets you use one of the device modes, say device C or D, to control the output of this as part of your programs. Normally closed, so this is still a tap tempo output, but it's the alternate polarity, and this is used pretty much only for Boss pedals. They're really the only ones that use this alternate polarity stuff, so we've got it in there. Util, we talked about this a moment ago. Util is the ability to assign the jack to send any MIDI CC you want by connecting an expression pedal. So the way that works is you connect an expression pedal, double check the jumpers inside. They should all be set to on, the dip switches rather. And then you go into the settings for utility jack number, low and high. and you set the number. Say you want to send CC64, you'd set the number to 64. And then if you want it to go fully from 0 to 127, you'd set low at 0 and high at 127. If instead you want it to be CC22 and you want it to go from 5 to 9, you can do that too. So you can set the range and you can set the number. So any MIDI CC you want to send. It's also independent from the expression. So you can set the expression for the standard device expression. And then if you wanted a different foot switch, or sorry, a different expression pedal, you could use a fixed expression as well. If you wanted a different expression pedal to just control, say, the mix level in your timeline separately, now you can do that. And then finally, Fave 2. This was a request from a single customer, but it makes so much sense, I put it in here. So customer, you know who you are, you're welcome, thank you. Fave 2. This lets you connect a momentary foot switch to the multi-jack here, the red jack. And when you tap the momentary foot switch, it will cause the controller to load a favorite preset. This is essentially an extra preset that is available globally, just like the Fave on the 4th button of the DMC-4 or the Fave in the expression port here. The difference is that it's actually a separate favorite preset from the ones available on the jack or the 4th button. So you can have two. So a dual foot switch or 2 single foot switches, you can load 2 different favorites, or you could use the onboard upper left on the DMC-4 as well as this to get 2 favorites. So you can have a go-to lead and a go-to clean sound, and they're always available. So that's pretty cool. So these are the big changes. There's a bunch of minor stuff that's under the hood, and I'm sure that you'll notice that. And we're going to be making some minor changes to this as it rolls out and as we do more testing and we bang on it more. But the big things are utility mode's been added. Device D and looper are now separate from each other. And we've added some more multi-jack options, including normally open, normally closed, util jack, and Fave 2. So that's the big stuff. I hope you have enjoyed our live stream. We're going to leave this on our channel so you can watch it. If you've got questions, please put them in the comments below or send us an email, support@disasterareadesigns.com. We're happy to help you in any way we can. This is updated on our website right now. It's on our files page. So go to the website and click on the tab that says support. We've got instructions there, PDFs with procedures, the updater app for Mac OS. So everything you need is right there. We've also updated the firmware for the DMC Micro, the DMC-6 and 8 Gen 3, and the DPC-5 Gen 3. These are all under the hood fixes, so not new features, but we fixed things like the way we talk to the Source Audio C4, adding devices like Strymon Riverside and Sunset, Empress Zoya, things like that. So all the devices are now up to parity with the device list in the DMC-3XL and 4. That means that all the devices are supported across all the platforms. So if you've got an older firmware in your, say, DMC-6 or 8, go ahead and update it, and you'll get all the new devices. Again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll have more information about the firmware updates on our social media pages. If you have any questions, just let us know. Thanks so much.